Okay. A couple of subjects that I'd like to bring up today that are pretty important. And first one is, I'm going to ask a question before I actually go into the statement, but and into the result. But how many of you guys have ever been in an accident, car accident? Either been in yourself or been in, you know,
In like
the car with somebody else. Anytime in your life, I don't care.
Multiple
All right,
times.
many people, right? Okay. So how many of you guys get out of your car and walk up to the person that was in the accident with you and say, "My fault. Sorry, I'm really sorry. It's completely my fault. I'll take full responsibility."
If it is my fault, I would.
Have you said that?
I would say, you know, it was my bad if I hit them. But I've
Okay.
had people. I had a guy tailgating the shit out of me, and he was so close to me that when he got over, he went and just bashed the side of my car.
Uh-huh.
And I definitely got out of the car and said it was my fault. I almost kicked his ass, but cops came. But yeah,
I'd say first
So
thing
it wasn't
I do
your
is-
fault, or
it was not my
okay.
fault. And
Whether it's my fault or not, the first thing I do is make sure the other person's okay.
Perfect,
That's
perfect,
it.
okay. All right, so, and the reason I'm asking this question is, so let's say for an example you didn't have car insurance.
That's your fault.
No, no, and we'll say that
That's what's-
maybe it is your fault. Maybe you rear-ended somebody. You got too close, weren't paying attention, looking at your phone. Oops. Oh, someone just texted me. Who was it? Oh, shit! Right? That's happened before, right?
all the time.
Okay. I'm sure, maybe not to you, but it's happened before where, you know, either you almost got in an accident or you did get in an accident. So the last thing you want to ever do in any situation, especially in a company vehicle, because I'm going to explain to you this why. If you hit somebody and it is your fault, I'm not saying that, you know, that it's not your fault. You don't walk up and say, "My fault, hey, I'm sorry, I apologize." First thing you do is see if they're okay. That's the most important thing. Make sure that everybody's okay. Get help if you need to get help, whatever the situation is. It's not about admitting fault. Let the insurance companies deal with that.
Yeah.
Be concerned about the customer, or the client, or whoever you want to talk about, the other person. Be concerned about them. Make sure that everybody's okay. Get off the side of the road if you can. You know, make sure you're safe, taken care of as well. But we don't start admitting fault. Insurance companies deal with that, okay? And the reason why, number one, there's a lot of people out there that are sue happy. And if you admit fault, no matter if it was their fault or not, or if they had some part of it, because what if they were on their phone? What if they weren't insured or licensed? What if, there could be, I can give you a whole bunch of what ifs. You didn't see exactly what happened. They weren't in front of you, but they just kind of swerved into your lane and then you hit them. I mean, there's all kinds of
They
things,
admit
right?
fault to the police when they got there.
Well, if you
You
admit
just
fault
say
to
it
the
to
police,
the-
it's still your fault. But you can tell the police what happened, let them make the determination.
Well, I'm just saying he said, she said type
Right.
of thing. You know what I mean? If you just say it to the person that you got an offender bender with and the cops get there and you realize it wasn't your fault, you say, "Hey, I didn't say that." Then
Right.
he said, she said, make again.
That's true, but my point is, it affects the company in a negative way as well,
Yeah.
okay? But I'm gonna go back a little further and I'm gonna say, okay, so, my son, not the one in here, but my older son, coming from work off of this, he's on the 5 freeway going towards the 78 freeway. If you know where San Diego is, it goes east and west, 78 does. It's right in Oceanside.
Exit 76.
He was actually coming from school from the train station in Oceanside, which is off Mission. And then he's basically got to go 2 exits. There's Cassidy, and then he gets off on onto the 78. So he's in the right lane because he never has to get into any other lane, right? And then he decides, okay, well, I'm going to get into the next lane because everyone's just stopped trying to get onto the 78 way back. So he gets around and he starts going. The third lane over from the right, some lady in a 4Runner is there, and my son wasn't using his phone. His phone was actually dead, so he had it, you know, in his backpack or whatever. He's driving, and the person in front of him slams on their brakes. So he starts to slam on his brakes. He says it was even skidding, right? The person to his left was trying to get onto the 78. So clipped him from the driver's door, and of course, as he's slamming on his brakes, it slid, you know, his whole side of the car, from the driver's door all the way back to the end of the car, was scratched, okay? and all it did to her was it looked like her right turn signal got damaged, and her bumper, her front bumper, the corner of her front bumper. So my son was a newer driver. I think he was probably 18, 19, 17, I don't know. He was, I think he had to be 18, must have been an adult. So he's like, oh crap, and he's in that second lane from the right. But he still can get onto the 78.
So much goddamn traffic now.
And everybody was all, he didn't really see the lady. He just saw, he heard the noise when he slammed on his brakes. He looked kind of behind him, and then she just takes off, passes the 78 to the next exit. Okay? So he's like, oh shit, what do? I can't stop in the middle of the freeway. I'm on the on-ramp now to 78. So we live about, 3 miles down the road on 78. He doesn't have a phone. He knows he can't talk on the phone while he's in his car because he's all nervous. He's a younger kid, first accident. Gets on the freeway, comes home, tells me about it. So we get immediately on the phone with the CHP, explain what happened. So I'm telling you this because safety, number one. If you're ever in an accident, not your fault, doesn't matter, you have to pull over as soon as it's possible to pull over, and you cannot leave the scene.
Yeah.
That is a felony offense. If you didn't understand that or didn't know that ever, it's a felony. Felony
Hit and run.
hit and run. Because then what she did was, this is what we found out a few minutes later, because a CHP pulled up to my house while my son was on the phone, or while we were on the phone with CHP. Because she pulled off past 78 to the next exit, pulled over, expecting him to pull over, I guess. He was going on the 78, so he wasn't going to pass. She called CHP and said, someone just hit me, and ran.
Oh my
So he's like, she hit me. Look, and he didn't get out of the car to see the damage. He just heard, because it wasn't a huge thing. He heard a noise. He was slamming on his brakes so he could hear the squeal of the tires, right?
Isn't it her fault because she was behind him?
She was to the left of him, and she was trying to come into his lane.
Well, yeah, but she was behind him getting
Right.
over, so it is her fault. If
Right.
you're from behind and you hit somebody, you're at fault.
That's true, but it was to the side of him, actually, because it hit his driver's door and scratched all the way back. So she didn't hit him from
trying
behind,
to
she
get
hit him from the
over
side. She was trying to
in
get
front
over
of
to
him? Or behind
into
him?
the same lane, because she wanted to get on the 78.
I know, but was she trying to get into the same lane as
Yeah.
him, in front of him or behind him? That's where
I think she was trying to, I don't know, because he slammed on his brakes as she was turning, so I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I just know what
I'm
happened,
saying
my
she
son
was probably trying
explained
to get
it.
behind him, and I feel like that
Could
was
have
her
been.
fault.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Or she could have been trying to get in front of him, I don't know,
Yeah.
but wasn't paying attention. He had a smaller car.
Okay.
Bottom line is, that's a felony offense.
Yeah.
Okay, it's felony hit and run. If you leave the scene of a crime or an accident without stopping and trying to see if everybody's okay and all that, that can be considered a felony offense. So luckily, we were on the phone with the CHP when the CHP came, and he could verify that, and was explaining it, and said, I don't have a cell phone that was working. It was dead. It was in my backpack. I just got off the train, basically, from school, got in my car. I never even left this. I only left one lane from the right to the left because there's a lot of traffic there. I was going to the other. There's 2 lanes that go on the 78. And so she said, no, that's not what happened. He was trying to, he had something, she said that the car in front of him slammed on their brakes, so he swerved into her lane and hit her, in front of her car, as he was trying to avoid hitting the people in front of him. Now, I wasn't there, I believe my son, but I wasn't there, no other witnesses, her word against his word. So whose fault is it? So the CHP says, shoot, it could be either one. Now, she had a little kid in her car, in a car seat, like an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old or something, some small little kid. So I don't know that the kid saw anything, but the CHP said, talked to her, they talked to my son, they looked at the damage. So now she's saying it's his fault, he's saying it's her fault, this whole thing. But the thing he did wrong was left the scene, which made him look guilty.
Well, like, what do you do when you don't have a phone, you know? Like,
Well, you still have to pull over
Supposed to exchange information.
and try to exchange information. If you pull over, because if you pull over a lot of times after something happens, usually somebody who saw it, especially
Yeah,
if
but-
you're not at fault, will pull over, and now you have a witness.
Yeah, there was this incident that happened to me last Saturday, where I was in a company vehicle and it was the morning, I was coming out of my house, I was waiting for the light to turn green, and the light turns green and I start to take off, and here comes a guy flying through the signal, just flying through a red light, and I slammed on my brakes and he barely didn't hit me, but he like swerved around, almost like flipped his SUV and just like went off into the shoulder and kept driving,
Yeah.
and like I was sitting there like in shock, because if I was a second more, I would have totaled the company vehicle. I would have lost all my tools that I
You got
invested
hurt.
thousands of dollars in. I probably would be in the hospital. So I was freaking out, and I was still there, just sitting in the middle of the signal. And I look over, and there's like a lady in her car, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." And I kind of just like pulled over because I didn't even know if I got hit. Like he was so close to me. I pulled over. I looked at the front of the car. There was nothing. That guy didn't even stop, slow down, or anything. He just took off. And I was like, man, that's scary, because
Yeah.
I lost it all.
But it applies to that right there, the 3-second rule, they teach us when I used to be a driver. After that light turns green for you, because it's not if, it's when somebody runs a red light and hits you. So you count 3 seconds. You see big semi-truck drivers, all that, and you're like, what the fuck taking so long? They're counting 3 seconds and then
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
It's that 3 seconds, somebody runs that red light, you know what I mean? So once that light turns green, go 1, 2, 3, and you're looking both ways, obviously, then you go.
Yeah,
Right.
Especially in the company vehicle, because
Because whenever, if you guys ever get in an accident, yeah, it's gonna affect you as an individual because you're driving the vehicle, right? But it's also gonna affect the company, especially if you have Kalka on your uniform. If we happen to have it on our truck, some of them don't have them yet, but I mean, it's a liability for us as well. And then if you're not insurable to drive in one of our vehicles, then what?
Double, yeah.
You know, so now you can't drive, and now you either got to have a driver or you can't work.
It doesn't matter if it's your fault or not.
Sometimes it doesn't. It just depends, right?
Yeah.
But so that part of the that's part of the first thing I want to mention is part of the accident. The second thing I want to mention is, so now let's take this admitting we're at fault into a customer's home.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So now we go in and we install something. It could be a furnace, could be an air conditioner, could be a water heater, could be anything. Recirc pump, right? And now let's say the recirc pump never goes off. We put a timer on it, but somehow we miswired something, and it's just constantly running. And now their electric bill just went up $200 in 1 month because that recirc pump and it's getting hot, and maybe we ruined the pump, whatever. But we go back, we send somebody else out there, and they say, oh yeah, this thing was wired wrong. And we tell the customer, oh yeah, your recirc pump, since, because they say, hey, we never had a problem till you guys put this new water heater in, and now my electric bill is just, I've done nothing else to the house. My electric bill has went up $200. Oh, all right, so then now we say, okay, so somebody else goes out and takes a look at your work, see what's going on. Oh yeah, this thing's really hot, and let me check the wiring. Oh, someone crossed the 2 wires here, and this thing's just non-stop running. Okay, so we don't go into the customer and say, yeah, you know what, ma'am, our fault. Sorry about your electric bill, but it's our fault. Whoever came in here last, that guy, he didn't know what he was doing. He rewired something. He wired it wrong. And this is only an example, not something that actually happened with the recirc pump. But now now that we've admitted that, we have complete liability to this customer. So a little different scenario here, because now it's not just an accident where we're driving a vehicle and there's an accident. We say it's our fault. In this situation, we go in and we say no. Sorry, ma'am, your electric bill, it's on us. We totally screwed up. Whoever was here last time, guy just made a mistake and rewired it or wired it incorrectly. So now that recirc pump was running. It's really hot. It's just not good anymore. I mean, it may not even last as long. You should start throwing us under the bus. So that's going to, number one, be a bad thing on the company. It's going to give us a bad reputation. Number two, we're going to be paying for that $200, maybe even buying another pump, right? Because they're going to say, well, shoot, it shouldn't have been running for the last week or 2 weeks like that, and my electric bill shouldn't have been that high, and on and on and on. What I'm not telling you to do is to lie to a customer or to, try to not admit something. That's not the goal. The goal is, hey, you know what, let me talk to my supervisor and see what, I'll let them know kind of some of the things that are going on here. I think that you should be good now, but let me talk to my supervisor and they'll give you a call. That's the best way to handle something like that. And the reason is because then I can get all the information from the person who installed it and the person who came back and fixed it. I can talk to the customer and work something out some way without admitting fault. Because you don't admit fault. You just don't. Because now we're responsible. 100%. There's no doubt. So what if for an example that happens? I mean, tell me for an example what you think you would do, Brett, if you went on a job, you came and you saw that something was wired incorrectly, and you had to tell the customer.
I kind of generally treat them not 100% like a child, but white lies aren't that bad, and I wouldn't divulge all my information of how I do things, but I'd tell them like, oh, we're gonna figure out the problem. We're gonna fix the problem, basically. Because the way I see it is like they call me because there is a problem, and I'm the guy that fixed the problem. So,
Right.
Even if I'm the guy that created the problem, I still got to fix the problem.
Exactly. So, okay, so is it possible for a brand new part, any kind of part you guys can go buy, to go bad?
Of course.
How quickly?
It depends.
Out of the box?
Out of the box, yeah.
Anything's possible. So, you know what? It could be anything. It could be a contact you have a wire that crossed and it hit the one wire, maybe it was as you're tightening something down, the wire's actually hitting this contactor and that contactor at the same time. And that little bit of a contact on the wrong contactor
Blows out the thing.
can blow something out, or could cause something to work wrong or not work at all, or something can stick, something can just,
transform it. Yeah.
anything can happen, right? So our goal is to fix the customer and take care of the customer. That is our goal.
I usually say it's a manufacturer defect or something if I have.
And I wouldn't even, I'm not trying to tell you to lie. I'm not saying lie about it. I'm just saying don't divulge everything. It's like being in that car accident we were talking about a little bit ago. You don't walk out the door and say, my fault, 100%, you know what, it's my fault. I take full responsibility, whatever. Because that's for the insurance companies to decide or somebody else to decide. You just make sure that they're okay. That's the most important thing. In this case, make sure that the product is okay, that it's running properly, everything is good to go that way. And then say, I'm going to talk to my manager and see, go over a few things with him, and we're just going to talk about if there's anything we can help you out with, whatever. And then we can do that. Let us make that decision. Because we all make mistakes, but if you start admitting to things completely right up front, then you're gonna be completely liable and responsible, and that's gonna affect the company as well as whoever was working there.
Yeah, you don't have a leg to stand on at all.
Right. So we make mistakes, and definitely let us know when a mistake was made, so we can talk to that person, or we can and deal with the customer, because now the customer's upset and say, hey, you know what, I apologize. Sometimes things happen. We get parts that are bad. Things that we can throw things out there. Not saying that's what happened, but let you say a white lie. It's not like you're lying. You're kind of trying to skirt around the actual truth a little bit without hammering yourself as a company and saying, well, our company sucks. We only have one guy that knows what he's doing. The other guys, they're jerk, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't do that. So you go in and you take care of the customer's issue, get it resolved, make sure that it works 100%, because in this situation, this is a different situation. I was talking about a recirc pump, but in this situation where Mike went out to one that was wired wrong, we have a $1,000 electric bill above and beyond what they normally have. This is a true situation. But that was fixed at the end of July, basically. Customer calls back 2 weeks later after Mike went back and fixed the problem. Okay? So he thought. But in addition to that, there was some bulb loose. Right?
Yeah, because of the coil freezing over, it broke the strap holding the TXV.
Okay? So now we got a bulb loose, and the thing's still running constantly. So there's more than one thing that could cause this to happen, or did cause it to happen, because now it's running for the next 2 weeks. It's now the 15th of the month. Customer's saying, hey, my thing is running. It went from 76 to 73 in 20 minutes in my house, but it's still running. It's 11 o'clock at night, and that was 4 hours ago. Something's wrong. And I'm thinking, shit, we just fixed that thing, and we already have a $1,000 bill that, by the way, we've got to take care of. And now we got another $500, $600 bill that's gonna be coming, because 2 weeks have gone by, and their compressor's been running the entire time. So now, I've got $1,500 that I gotta pay, because we already basically admitted that it was our fault in the beginning, okay? So rather than saying, oh, you know what, there's a part that, I was checking this part and moving things around, and, you know, I think we're good now, that's not lying. That's what he did. I'm not saying a lie.
Yeah.
Just don't give him all the information that throws us under the bus and then backs over us again, and then runs over us again, and backs over us again. Because the liability on our fault, on our part, is gonna be everything if you do that. So just, hey, you know, I went through everything, I checked it out, made sure everything was tight and connected, and everything was wired correctly, we're all good. That's all telling the truth, we're all good now. It seems to be running properly. All right? And then, the other thing is, you know, so like for an example, he goes back the second time, the bulb was loose. So he says, you know what, when it froze up, it did something that I didn't realize, and again, you don't say, hey, my fault. Guess what? I didn't check that. I just checked the wiring, and I checked this and that was wrong, but I didn't check this. You don't go there. You know what?
Finesse them a little.
You gotta finesse them, you gotta be able to tell them what you did without telling them that it's something that we did wrong. Hey, I checked all the wiring, I made sure everything, all the contacts are good, everything's working properly now. You know, I don't know exactly, let me talk to my boss and tell him kind of what I found and see if there's anything I can do to help. Because then in that case, I can go in and say, I can offer you some free plumbing. You know, I'll give you a credit of half of the money that happened, without admitting fault. I could have done other things and without saying, hey, it's our fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, her expectation is, hey, you guys admitted it was your fault, so I expect this, and that.
Everything for free.
Right. And she could come back easily and say, that compressor was running for 6 weeks straight. You know, how much is that gonna ruin the life of my compressor? I want a new compressor. She could do whatever she wants now, because we admitted fault. So, you gotta be careful on what you say. You fix the problem, you make the customer happy, just like if you're in an accident, you don't admit fault, you see if everybody's okay, you take care of that first, let the insurance companies decide that, they can make the determination who did what, when, where, and why.
I keep things kind of general. I don't like really even accept too much responsibility. Even if I do fix the problem for somebody, I let them know, like, this is what I think the problem is. If I fix the problem and there's still an issue with something, I kind of let them know that there could be something, that still goes on. Even if I fix it afterwards, I'm like, hey, if there's any issues with it, give us a call.
So I mean, I can look at this two ways. Okay, so, and I'm just trying to throw this out at everybody, because this could happen to anybody. So, Mike goes out because of the issue that the customer says they have the high bill, things running and running and running, blah, blah, blah. He goes out, and on Mike's side, he's like, hey, I found the problem. Why look for anything else? Because I can see this is wired incorrectly. He fixes the wiring, walks away. Doesn't think to look for everything else and double check everything else, because, hey, I see that it's wired wrong. That's the problem. Fix it, be done.
Yeah.
Well, Mike made a mistake too, because Mike should have checked everything else, because it did freeze over. Should have checked the bulb first time, and we would have another 2 weeks of $500. So, is that Mike's fault? Mike didn't cause that, but Mike he had kind of a little bit of tunnel vision in a way, because he changed the wires, fixed it. Hey, that's, obviously that's what caused it, but he didn't see that this could have caused something else that also caused an issue where it's going to continue to run, right?
I think we could take self-responsibility behind closed doors.
Well, you still take responsibility, both of
But
you.
not
But
not in
what I'm
front of the
saying is,
customer.
it's not Mike's fault that happened.
No.
But at the same time now, if we go back to the customer and say, well, first issue was the wiring, which actually caused something else that I didn't notice, and now, by the way, since we didn't notice that, that's our fault too. I mean, we could just keep on adding blame to ourselves all day long, right? And we end up buying the whole, we could do all kinds of stuff, whatever the
Usually
customer
tell 'em,
wants.
I replaced this part, and then this part broke.
And that could happen even on a new system. I mean, we get Linux systems in here that we put in, and next thing you know, they're gone within, a real short period of time, and they shouldn't be. There's things that happen. I'm just trying to say, guys, you can't go in and start admitting things and and admitting fault to them. We want to fix them, take care of the customer. That's the most important thing. All right? And then let us know, let management deal with it, because we're going to have time to think about it, because it may not even been intentional to say, hey, this is what's wrong, or this is someone wired something wrong, or someone installed it wrong. I've had somebody install a recirc pump backwards on a water heater. And what the next guy do? You know, if you were to go in and fix it and take care of it and say, you know, yeah, I saw a couple things here. Sometimes these things are finicky, but it should be working well. I'm gonna, you know, I'll call you and check here, whatever. They can check the next couple of days, make sure everything's running fine, or I'll stop by. You're good to go. But you start admitting it, a lot of things have been running wrong the whole way. No wonder, you know, whoever installed that thing screwed up.
It's probably why it's so important to do your research before you go to any job, to see if anybody else has been there, if anybody else has given any estimates, what work anybody else has done, especially if it's been through the company. So that
Right.
you can kind of come there and say, like, if it's a new customer, we've never been there and stuff, well then admitting that all this stuff is
Exactly.
messed up is a little better for our part.
Yeah, if
Because
somebody else messed up that's not our company, throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. You know, if someone else screwed up that's not one of our guys, that's one thing. So I can't reiterate enough, because that's the kind of stuff that costs us money as a company, and our reputation can be, you know, tarnished. Next thing I want to throw out. You know, I don't know how often this happens or who does it. I know though that a lot of guys and gals, I have one gal working here, you go out in the field and you guys are doing your thing and you listen to music. Who listens to music when they're working? Okay, a couple of you guys, 3 of you. All right. If you're wearing headphones, guys, listen to whatever stuff you want. But what you shouldn't be listening to is anything that could be offensive to anybody else, especially when you have children in your home. Okay? And I'm throwing this out not to throw anybody under the bus, but you know, even at my house, you come to my house and I've got a 14-year-old daughter, I've got a 16-year-old son, and I don't allow them to listen to certain types of music that have language that's not appropriate. And if you got a worker in your home, even if you're, you know, with someone, you know, you don't know me that well, you don't know my family that well, you don't know our values, whatever, you shouldn't be listening to something that everybody else in the whole world could hear. And to me, it's the same thing in your van. You have your van on and you have something cranking to a point where you have Kalka on the outside of your van, or you have Kalka in your uniform, and you're walking in and you're hearing something that's saying every other word's the F word, and you know, all kinds of inappropriate things. It's just not appropriate. It's putting a bad reputation on the company, and you know, it's just not professional. So you want to listen to that kind of stuff, that's all about you, listen to it, but have your earphones on so you can hear it and we don't have to if we don't want to. You know, I know so many times that I've been in my own vehicle, not even at work or whatever, and I hear some guy driving a car that's just pounding music and it's all rap that's just talking about F this and F that and, you know, rape this girl, whatever. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff that's just crazy lyrics. And my daughter and my son are in my car and going, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted to hear your music, I might ask you, hey, can I come in and hear your music? But, I don't want to be driving down the street and hearing your music. And if you're in a vehicle that has a name of a company on it, all you're doing is potentially hurting the reputation of that company. Okay? So please be respectful on that kind of thing. It's the same thing as you wouldn't want to walk up to some customer and say, hey, bitch, how you doing? I mean, it's the same thing as listening to music like that when you have that kind, it's just not, it's not appropriate, right? So please keep that in mind as we continue to work through, hopefully what's gonna eventually get hot. I don't know when it's gonna get hot, because it hasn't got hot fast enough for me, but that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions? I know a couple of you guys just walked in and missed some of it, but I try to reiterate a little bit while you walked in here, so, okay?
Check out the video on YouTube.
Yeah, and anybody